Evening. My name is Joseph Goshasta Hinduka, and I'll be the facilitator of the speech, debate, and debate coaches camp of the Debate Institute of Africa. Today, we shall be indulging Module 3, which is the pedagogical principles related to speech and debate coaching. Debate Institute Africa exists to nurture the pillars of the African dream, and we know that you, the speech and debate coaches, you will train very many people who will be fundamental to the future of Africa. So thank you so much for committing. So Module 3 has an introduction which says DIH trainings target both youth and adults, where the youth are the majority. These audiences are distinct in the way they learn, and this is largely because of the different stages they are undergoing in life, brain development levels, and life experiences that factor into how they interact with effective learning. Therefore, this training will indulge both pedagogy and andragogy. All right, so we shall cover three things very briefly. One will be the key definitions that this entire idea is about. Secondly, we shall look at the definitive learning characteristics that are peculiar to different age groups. Then three, we shall look at interaction specifics that can be applied in speech and debate coaching. Ken Robinson, a philosopher who was also recognized by the Queen of England, Sir Ken Robinson. When he was alive, he said, if you can light the spark of curiosity in a child, they will learn without any further assistance. Our role as debate coaching is to let students love this game so that they can learn on their own, they can have a natural learning mechanism, they can realize who they are and have the interest in studying, not forcing them to learn. We need to spark that interest such that they love what they are doing, and that is very peculiar to pedagogy. So, key definitions. One, learning is the process of obtaining increased knowledge, skills, attitudes. It's focused on the training participants' ability to acquire the content of the training. Why did we include this here? You can do something without necessarily fulfilling its purpose. So we want that if we are coaching, we fulfill the purpose of coaching, we fulfill the purpose of learning. So you have to make sure that in every training, you do what you call a 3-layer evaluation. Now, the first evaluation is looking at the training needs before. So you first look at, okay, I'm going to train. What are the training needs? What are the people's expectations? Yeah. So you try and assess what are they expecting. If you're going to do a case construction, let's say a workshop, you first get their views. So what do you want to learn at the end of the day? After that, you take them on a journey to learn those things, yeah, or even the things they didn't identify. Then even after, you assess whether that learning happened. If it did not happen, that means you need to do more work, because it makes no sense for you to have a workshop and people are not learning the things you have taught them. It would be a complete waste of air and oxygen, and I don't think you would love it. Of course, it wouldn't be a waste of carbon dioxide, but your oxygen, your air would have been lost. Forgive the humor. The second is pedagogy. Pedagogy refers to the study of teaching methods, including the aims of education and the ways in which such goals may be achieved. The field relies heavily on education philosophy, which encompasses scientific theories of learning, etc. So here is the thing. We're not going to teach you everything, but we're going to give you the foundational principles of what pedagogy is, such that you can self-assess and know which one works for you best and which one works for your students. Certain methodologies may work for particular students, others may not. If you're handling women, there are things they love. If you're handling boys, there are things they love. If you're handling a particular age, there are things that they love. There are things that they love. So it's extremely vital that you find what you can prioritize, because in the event that you do not understand what you should prioritize in a particular instance, then you find yourself in a position where you are doing things but they're not having the results that you had projected them to have. The last thing is what we call andragogy, which refers to the methods and principles used in adult education. So adults and young people have very different characteristics, as I'll be showing you in the other slides, and they must be treated as differently as such. Certain principles that work for adults do not necessarily work for people who are a little bit younger. All right, Characteristics of age groups, and that's particular to youth. Forgive me for that slide, but I hope you can get it. So, characteristic one, youth gain mastery through in depth and immerse learning, which means that the coach must provide opportunities for practice with new tasks and problems for continued use of knowledge and skills. So, youth want some sort of applicability for what you're telling them. So, that means you must merge what you're teaching with how relevant it is in life, and then you give them enough time to practice and learn it. That way, they have a heart for it. The second thing is youth learn best when less experienced learners can work alongside more experienced peers and skilled adults. For example, maybe you are seeing someone is a 17, you're teaching a 13-year-old. If they train in the same room, a 17-year-old is in a better position to teach this 13-year-old a certain principle than you, who is probably 30 or 25. So that means you must have classes that are some sort of merger. Of course, there are some circumstances where there are junior teams that are more experienced than senior teams. It should not happen, but in my coaching career, I've seen it happen. Still, you see how you can match different experiences around the same age group to make sure they learn from each other. Youth thrive when working on challenges because they can address difficult but accessible problems. So give students challenges and make sure that they clearly understand how to solve problems. So give them problems, give them challenges, trigger their understanding of problems and how those solutions to the problems can be properly articulated. I feel like that is a little bit much better. So everything is clear, and I have just put it down here. So youth have feelings and they are open, and so once they look like they are disrespectful, don't be annoyed. That's how they are. You don't have to be unprofessional, but then you don't also have to be hard, because when you are too hard, you create a distance between you and them, and that does not enable you to teach them effectively. So you see all those principles, so clearly make sure that you master them. All right. Characterization of age groups. So for adults are a little bit different. They need to be extremely involved in what you're teaching them, meaning you must create opportunities for them to be involved at a higher rate than the young people. They want to be engaged. They just don't want to be passively engaged in the learning process. They want to be extremely actively engaged. And it's important to give them an opportunity to make mistakes, because they learn a lot from mistakes. They are old, they understand the value of making mistakes and learning from them. The third thing is that adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance and impact to their job or personal life. So you must just also, youth have this particular aspect, but adults even have it more, because to them they are doing things which really have significance for them. Maybe things that help them on their career, or things that enable them to perform better at work, or things that just put more food on the table. So it's important to, have a learning environment that connects what you're teaching them in terms of speaking and debating or anything to how better they can be productive. So it's important to note that the gardener does not make a plant to grow, and the job of the gardener is just to create optimal conditions. So you have to simply create optimal conditions for people to learn, and then the people will learn, rather than you almost forcing the plant to grow. So you simply have to create optimal conditions, and that is what pedagogy is all about. So then I go to the very last thing, which are the specifics of interaction. So there are quite a number of things that you can explore, and one, you could use quizzes. Quizzes enable you to look at, okay, did people actually learn what I taught them? So after you have taught something, you can see whether they actually understood it. You prepare a quiz. There are many quizzes on the internet about everything, but you can also prepare your own using your own personal computer and share it with the students, see whether they learn. It's important to also motivate participants by offering awards to the highest scorers or the most improved scorers, such that they can understand that there's a benefit and reward system within your coaching program. All right, you can have small group discussions, you can have case studies, and one thing I want to focus on is what I call the gamification principle in the classroom. So, gamification in learning involves using game-based elements such as point scoring, peer competition, teamwork, score tables to drive engagement. For example, you give a research assignment to 4 groups. You see, okay, which group competes better. You give them a prize, or you motivate them in a particular way, or you have a debate in the class, and that triggers competition because the person wants to win, and because they want to win, they want to learn the principles that enable them to win, and those are the principles that you want them to learn. So through gamification, you teach the principles, but you also inculcate that principle. It's common. It makes the classroom fun and not boring. The drills, so there are very many drills. Whatever you teach, you can drill yourself because a drill enables you to perfect what people have learned. For example, you've taught people how to construct fast speeches, so they can do fast speech drills. So you give them motions, and you tell them to construct the speeches, and they make the speech. They refine it second time, third time, fourth time until the speech becomes extremely good. Q&A questions. Of course, these sessions are extremely important where the students ask you in class, or even ask people whether they have questions. Make sure they have understood. Even to the introverts and extroverts and ambiverts, make sure they ask. Trigger them to ask questions about whether they have understood, such that at the end of the day, you have achieved the best learning outcomes for the students. The last one is question cards. So you could give people question cards, those that maybe are not don't want to speak, but they can write. So give them sticky notes, give them question cards, make sure that they are right. The list is long. We have a very huge document. We shall be releasing a book on introduction to debate coaching very soon. And the list will be very long. It will be at a very cheap price for those who want it. All right, that is pedagogy. It's constructivist, it's collaborative, it's inquiry based, it's integrative, it's reflective. So learners need endless feedback more than they need endless teaching. You must make sure that learners get what you're teaching them. Otherwise, you will have not fulfilled the purpose of learning. I remain Joseph Tahinduka, and thank you so much for attending. I'm going to share the assignment with you. Please attend to it and make sure you deliver it. Remember that those who miss more than 2 assignments, moving forward, will not be continuing with us in this camp. They will have to wait for next year if they're interested in speech and pet coaching. Otherwise, we love you so much. Keep doing the assignments, keep attending the sessions. The next module is going to be about building lesson plans for particular sessions of debate coaching, and that's going to be in 3 days. See you.